It's been a while since I've done automotive art, and it's been my pride and joy for a long time, so I really do miss it. I've had a recent opportunity to design something for Porsche Studio in Portland to celebrate their release of a new, exciting Macan EV. Now, the first step, it's always coming back and asking myself, how do I learn more about this and how do I get inspired? What I mean by how do I learn more about this is, how do I learn more about the subject? And then the second part of that is, how do I get inspired? We want to have the creative mojo. So here I have on my shelf the Porsche art book. And I went through it. There's a really awesome inspiration. Look at this. This is just electric, right? And that's precisely what I'm looking for. So Dexter Brown, this artist, that really inspires me because the way that he does these paintings is very impressionistic, right? And the key word to me when I look at this is it's vibrant and it's electric, both literally and figuratively. So what's the next step? Now, I've always been a believer of working in a sketchbook, having a notepad, jotting down these ideas as they come through. So that's what we're gonna do first. The first word that comes to mind, electric, or electrifying. Let's put it down. The second thing is, if I'm designing something that is for an automotive company like Porsche, that is so legendary, has such a rich history, I need to understand its slogan. I need to understand the brand spirit. So, the brand spirit, I love it. The slogan, the motto, driving in its most beautiful form. The Porsche 911, look at this iconic silhouette. I don't want to necessarily copy the silhouette because I'm designing an artwork for the Macan EV, but I need to be inspired by the spirit of it. Okay, but this is where I got a little bit stuck in my journey. Because I believe in order for me to do the best artwork that I can, I need to have a deep understanding of the subject. The best case scenario is that I actually have a Macan 4 EV in front of me, but I don't. Take a look at this. This is the drawing of my Porsche 911 964 on a road trip that my wife and I went on, and the experience itself, it's so visceral, it's so authentic to me. It's not just an image. When I look at this artwork, it takes me back to the journey. So, what do I do that I don't have access to a Macan EV? My buddy Kevin, my partner of Tomo Studio, my good friend and my partner Kevin, we formed this creative group called Tomo Studios, and he designed this amazing little thing that I can use to help me design the Macan EV. So what is it? Let's open it up. Wow. Wow, just wow. Kevin knocked it out of the park. Holding this in the hand versus seeing pictures, totally different. This is a quality piece. And this is called a speed form versus a model like this. It's not a speed form, right? It's a faithful reproduction of the 911. Whereas the speed form, when I think about it, if the slogan is driving in its purest form, then this is the design in its purest form. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna sketch, I'm gonna draw, do a really quick sketching session. It shouldn't take long. The end goal is not the drawing, but through the drawing, through the sketching, I'll be able to study its form and to be able to appreciate it further and then inject that understanding and that soul into the actual artwork itself. Let's go. All right. So just did about a half hour of sketching, drawing from the speed form, and also referencing a couple of photos. I enjoyed the process. I think it's I'm starting to understand the form a little bit better. And this is always a very important part of my creative process where I don't want to jump right into the final artwork. Let's get right to the next painting part, the digital painting. I'm going to be using the software. It's not a typical software, painting software. We usually use Photoshop, but in this case, I'm going to use a software called Heavy Paint. And I'll tell you about why after I execute it. So come along for the ride and let's start the painting itself. At first I thought this project to be very simple, right? That it would take me 2 hours to do. Just like these previous paintings I've done where I had a reference picture and I could just work from the reference picture, but that just wasn't the case. The first session was very difficult. I was in my garage thinking, what am I doing? And I didn't paint at that point. I didn't paint for a while. I didn't paint for maybe a year digitally. So it was this very nerve-wracking process where I felt like I had to do a bunch of these other things. And now, let me talk a little bit about this process. I've done previous paintings where they were from reference pictures and they took me maximum 2 hours. But this one, because I haven't painted digitally using this particular software. So you see in the background, this is my painting process. Okay? This is literally stroke by stroke. There's a software called Heavy Paint. Later on, what I did was I brought my painting into another software, Photoshop. So I used these two different softwares back to back. And I literally thought for this Porsche studio event to celebrate the release of their new Macan EV, to create this painting, it would be fairly easy, but it wasn't. First session was horrible. At the end of the 2 hour mark, I was like, what is this? So what I ended up doing was, I probably spent about 25 hours on this painting. In the very beginning, the first session, it was stressful, but it was also fun. Very early on, at least. My idea to this painting was electric. Right? I kept thinking about this key word, electric. How do I make it electrifying? How do I, without telling you that this piece is about the Porsche Macan EV, how do I make you feel the vibe? And I closed my eyes and I pictured, oh, okay, this is nighttime. This EV, this beautiful, sleek SUV is going through the city. And that wherever it goes, the electric energy, the vibe, it brings life to that part of the world. That's why I started with this palette. It's kind of purplish pink. I think it's a very, very unique color. So I got inspired by that and I wanted to incorporate that into the painting. So at this part of my creative process, it was just about throwing down marks. I looked up a bunch of reference pictures. I was watching these videos and I really want to get a good character, good understanding of the car itself, the lines, the different angles. And I ended up settling with this 3/4 shot. I had one reference picture of a picture that I had photographed, but I also wanted to create this painting from my imagination. And that perhaps is what's more difficult, more challenging about this. That's why it took so much longer than I anticipated, because it's a combination of working from reference pictures of the car, but also of using my imagination to bring it to life. It's maybe the most frustrating, but at the same time, the most enjoyable part about these types of works. As we get into this part of the design, now you can see this other layer. I had 4 different layers. And really the idea is like thinking about like a sandwich, right? That you have the front, which is the final details of the car, and then maybe it's like the headlights, and then you work backtrack into, oh, this is the middle layer, that's the car itself, and then the background layer of the background. So in these marks, this controlled chaos, the frenzy of the creation, I was searching for the form of the car. So you can see this like really beautiful chaos. Literally every stroke is a decision, right? Sometimes I was using lasso tools to fill the marks. Sometimes I was using these other tools to paint strokes in. And as I fast forward in this process, you can just see. And I love showing this part of the process. It's not enjoyable maybe, but it really shows that even as an experienced artist and as I draw cars all the time, right? I'm not going to put in the beautiful, perfect stroke on the first pass. I'm always thinking about this idea of swaths, that I'm doing the strokes over and over again, and I'm going through all these different areas of the painting in order for me to have this dance between the strokes. How are they in conversation to come together to sculpt a form of the car and to tell the visual story that I wanted to tell? How do you create the material? The illusion of the shine, right? And the illusion that the light is actually powering through. I love engaging with that struggle. There are all these questions that need to be asked. There are these challenges that face me as an artist. And it's this beautiful struggle. The whole objective here is to really bring you as the audience into the scene and be able to focus on different pieces of information. So what I mean by different pieces of information is they're not all the same level. They don't have the same level of importance, right? Like this mountainscape in the background, that is not our primary subject. The primary subject is actually the vehicle. In particular, even the primary subject of the vehicle, we can further break it down into the headlight, probably the main thing that we look at, because that's the soul of the car. It's just like when you're drawing a person, you're not going to be looking at the mouth. You're going to be looking at the eyes, right? You're literally going to be looking at the subject. This stroke right here, I printed out the painting today, digital painting today, and I was showing my students, my staff. And I think that's really that one area that caught everyone's eye. It's like, how did I do this? How do you create the illusion of the light? And you can see that I'm sculpting, right? These things, specular highlights, that's what it is. Specular highlights, there you go. On a side note, there's a really great book, the amazing Scott Robertson. There's a book called How to Render. There's How to Draw, there's also How to Render. And then there's this other book. It's called Artist Master Series, Color and Light. It's produced by 3D Toll Publishing. This book is wonderful. So I was literally studying at least the front half, which is all about the science of light and color. I was studying it every single day, and that helped me level up a lot. This is now in Photoshop. So, you know, this scene right here is still quite chaotic, right? There are all these different strokes. Again, they're quite electrifying, they're quite wonderful, but I didn't love it. Like, there are a lot of these darks that feel very fake to me. It doesn't capture the essence of the car. While it's very expressive, it's still too loose. And I have to remember that this is to be a piece that is painted much bigger, in which case I knew that these strokes, they're going to be magnified. This challenge and the struggle was, how do I bring the two things together, the digital experience and the analog experience together to the best of my ability? Because there's always something about digital painting that just feels a little bit removed in terms of that experience, right? So I still felt like this was very much digital, even though literally every stroke felt like it was me, right? So that was super interesting. This is the final version. That's very close to the final version. And this is the piece that was printed. So let's look at this little detail change. Right? Focus on this area. With popping specular highlight. Now it's like, ooh, this feels like the bonnet, right? The different surfaces of the car. It really feels like it still has that excitement of the expressiveness of the strokes, but at the same time, look at these, right? My student was like, is that a mistake? And like, shut up. That's what it's supposed to be. That's the intention. Like, I don't want this to be so polished that it literally looks like a picture. Then what's the fun in that, right? I am doing art. I'm not doing a reproduction of a photo. I'm breathing my life into it. So these wheels, right? Like, it's strokes after strokes to figure out, boom, try once, like it, keep it. Boom, try another time, another stroke, a different place, don't like it, redo it, right? Maybe that's the fun of digital painting, but it's also a discovery process that makes me go, ooh, that's why I also enjoy the analog so much more, right? Because if you make a mistake, you have to paint over it, or you have to erase it, or do all these things. So you're that much more committed, I feel, to the analog experience, whereas the digital experience is like, I'm gonna try this, and again. I feel like that in a way is why some artists, at least I find myself, personal experience, that I would sometimes like pick at the details a little bit too much. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, as it's gone on to be a little bit longer than I wanted to. This is the first time that I set this up in this big, awesome, interactive screen that I can control. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys want to know, learn more of in this creative process? The next video is most likely gonna be me hanging out with my good friend Kevin of Studio Tomo. We co-created this in Portland, so I am going to take a road trip down to Portland, drive a Porsche down to Portland, and to show my piece there, and to network and hang out with, meet some exciting new people, and to be able to see my work there. I'm really looking forward to that experience, and I will see you there. Until then, be lovely, be sexy, be grateful, be gracious, be content with who you are, love on yourself. I am rambling on. Go out and make some art. Hit me up if you have any questions. This is Shouh. Until next time, love y'all. Peace.